Hello, and welcome to Introducing Me. I'm your host, Sarah. I started this podcast to get to know other people and lifestyles while discovering more about myself. Each episode, I will give a new guest a chance to discuss their background, culture, interests, or whatever they want to talk about to help increase all of our own worldviews. Today, I would like to introduce you to Jacey Keller. She is a grief coach who lost her mom 10 years ago. Her dad has remarried, making her the oldest of 12, while she now has two kids of her own. So I'm grateful to have Jacey here today to tell us more about what's happened in her life, what, strives her to do what she's doing today and all of that stuff. So thank you so much, Jacey. Why don't you go ahead and tell the audience more about yourself?
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. And by the way, I love the purpose of your podcast. I think it's fantastic. It's awesome. Um, yeah. So like you said, I'm a grief coach and I became a coach, 3 years ago now. And the, the death of my mom is ultimately what led me to do this work. And like you said, she passed away 10 years ago on Valentine's Day. So last week we had the 10-year mark. Um, and yeah, I spend my days talking about grief, which it sounds really weird to some people. I'm like, yeah, I talk about grief and like I help people through that. And they're like, oh, doesn't that get like depressing and heavy? And honestly, it doesn't. Like, I love it so much. I could talk about it all day long. And it's healing and it gives me life. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and so to hear, that grief gives you life, out there helping other people. So you did just kind of have this 10-year anniversary the other week. You want to share a
Mhm.
little bit about what that was like and kind of, since it was on Valentine's Day, what that sort of holiday brings for you every year?
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, it it didn't really like Valentine's Day doesn't really affect me that much. Typically it's like my mom's birthday that like gets me because it's like, oh, she's not getting any older. Like she's gonna be 36 forever, and I am the one that keeps getting older, and eventually, I'm gonna, I mean, maybe, hopefully, pass 36. And so that's usually the date that just feels not even heavy. It feels different. Um, but this year, it was a little bit maybe emotional. Um, I don't usually do anything outside of the ordinary to honor her. I I did like go out to lunch with a friend. I spent the day with like my kids and my husband, and I worked. So yeah, it was good. It was good, and I had a little cry session, and um, so yeah, I, it was a little more emotional than it typically is. So that was my experience for the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, I think those big milestones, whether surrounded in happiness or surrounded in grief, like if that's like in theory supposed to be
Mhm.
the primary emotions, there are so many like different emotions that come with these bigger moments.
Totally. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. Like there's so many mixed emotions. And it's kind of funny. I found myself just kind of like telling myself like, oh, like it's been 10 years. Like it's been 10 years, and I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago. It almost feels like I didn't even have that life before. And yet at the same time, it feels like it was just yesterday. It's kind of like mind-boggling almost. You're like, how can I feel like such two, I don't know, just very different things about the same thing? And um and yeah, and just to see like the different ways that me and my siblings uh, grieve in general. Yeah, it's definitely mixed emotions all around. So I like to think of grief as like you have grief as like the umbrella, and then under that you have all the different emotions. Like you have, I don't know, anger, guilt, sadness, relief. There's, like after my mom died, I remember getting the phone call and I felt relieved, and which what felt kind of weird because I was like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting to feel that. But it felt like a weight was lifted because like she was no longer suffering, and like we knew it was coming. She had been in hospice for a week, and and so that part just felt extra heavy. And so when she passed, it was like, oh, like I can breathe. And I remember feeling guilty because I felt like I could breathe. Um, so yeah, it's definitely like all the emotions wrapped up into one, and that's what grief is.
Definitely. Now, you just spoke there about, feeling that relief, then feeling the guilt
Mhm.
10 years ago. So, what was it like 10 years ago, before your mom's passing and then kind of right after? And you mentioned how also your
Mhm.
siblings have grieved differently. And you are the oldest
Mhm.
sibling as well. So, that I feel like adds a different
Mhm.
layer as well. So, can you kind of take us back 10 years and talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 10 years ago, it was like, um, definitely like survival mode. Um, and like there are parts that I truly like I don't remember just because I was like trying to survive. Um, I at the time, and because I am the oldest, I was like the chauffeur for my siblings. And so, my dad, he was trying to manage work and being a single dad now, and like, dealing with 5 kids, and he's of course grieving the loss of his wife, and so I felt like, oh, I need to like step it up. Like I need to, I don't know, like take on like more responsibility. And not because anyone was like expecting that from me, but I think it's just kind of like I felt like I just had to, I think. Um and and so it was very like, yeah, just trying to run from one place to the next, and like trying to even like keep myself busy because I didn't want to feel the pain. I was like, I don't want to deal with that. And I just kind of like want to move on from it already. Um, and so a few months later, I graduated high school because I was a senior in high school when she passed away. And then I graduated, and then I, I don't know, I spent a couple months at home after that. And then I moved away to go to college. And that's when like it really hit me, like the loneliness really hit, and I started like just coping with food. Like I was like, I'm going to eat as much as I can, and I did. I like it was terrible. Like I felt horrible, physically and emotionally, and I was like, this is not working. um and as far as my siblings go, I really wasn't there when they were going through, in that time period. I wasn't there physically and emotionally. Like I was just trying to, I don't know, get to the next day and the next hour, and so I don't know what those early months were like for them. Um I do think that maybe they felt, um, I don't know, maybe just kind of like, oh, mom died and now like JC left us. Like now we have to like figure this out. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure it was a completely different experience for each of them though.
Yeah, because you had that opportunity to kind of like get away and be able to process your emotions without the being in the home, being with your dad and your
Mm-hmm.
siblings. Now,
Mm-hmm.
your dad has since remarried, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure how young your siblings go below you. So, like, what was it like? Kind of the your dad having to introduce somebody else, and did it go well?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, like when we first met, my stepmom, my now stepmom, it was, at least for me, I can't speak for anyone else, but at least for me, it felt like pretty natural. Like I I was kind of like surprised by, um kind of just by how accepting everyone was. Um and like and especially like when they were like dating, and then after they got married and they, all of the kids were living together except for me. I was the only one that didn't live with them. But yeah, like it was, of course there were challenges, of course, but like that initial meeting where we all met for the first time, because they dated long distance, um pretty much up until they got married, like, so it was always like long distance. Yeah, it felt just normal. It was almost kind of like, oh, like there's the other half of our family.
Mhm.
But yeah, and it's kind of interesting. So uh, I have four younger, like biological siblings. And then my stepmom has six kids of her own that she brought into the marriage. And then just 2 years ago, they had a surprise baby together. So I have a sister who is actually 20, 25 years younger than me. So it's kind of fun. It's an interesting dynamic for sure. Because my boys, they're older than my youngest sister, and they're like, "Oh, it's like our aunt," and like, yeah, it's kind of fun. Like, not everybody has that. But yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to ask how old your kids were, compared to,
Mhm.
your sister coming along. So what is it like parenting alongside seeing now like your dad having to go through parenting a baby again?
Um, it. I don't. I don't know if it was really any different. Like when they were expecting her, it was just kind of like we would always make fun of them, like, oh, you guys should have a baby together. And it would like, I don't know, like we'd be like one big happy family or
Mhm.
whatever. And like we'd all have this little person that we were all related to. Um, then they were like, no, we're not gonna have a baby. And then they do. And so we're like, yeah, it was just kind of funny. Like all those years we were like teasing them about it, and then it actually happened. Yeah, it's honestly my they both love babies. And like they like when my boys were babies, like I don't know, like they just love that like baby stage. And me personally, I don't. I'm like, I'm good. Um, but yeah, I feel like it was pretty natural for them. And I didn't really know what to expect, honestly. I was like, oh, is it going to change everything? Is it going to be like, I don't know. I didn't really know what to expect. But yeah, it was like, it just felt like, oh, hey, like, there's baby sister. Okay. Like she, I don't know, like she was the last piece to this big, crazy puzzle.
Yeah. And so you just mentioned how, you weren't a fan of the baby stage in parenting. So what has it been like, raising a couple kids, not having your mom there with you? Like,
Mhm.
has that like added to that for you, or is it something that kind of you're able to compartmentalize?
Yeah. So when I was pregnant with my oldest, I I thought because everyone told me like, oh, you'll be, like, there's nothing like having your own child um and just like talking about how like there was just like so much love and happiness and joy and in motherhood and that kind of stuff. And honestly, I thought something was wrong with me because I did not feel that when I was pregnant with him. And I didn't feel it like I didn't feel it in the first couple months after he was born. Um I was really, I don't know, like I was just like, oh, this is a whole new like level of grief that I have never experienced before because I didn't have like my mom there. Um and I will always say like I'm so grateful for like the support that I did have through these trying times. But it was still lonely. Like it was still, nothing can take away that grief from that loss. And it doesn't have to be made better. It just has to be seen. Like it just has to like exist. Um and I just I kept it to myself. I didn't really talk a lot about it. I was just like, okay, like let's just, I don't know, like get this over with and like move on to the next thing. But yeah, it was a very, very lonely time because I was I was just, I don't know, feeling a lot of grief. And I'd have moments where I was like, oh, I like I wonder how like my mom handled this part of pregnancy, or like how how am I supposed to like birth a human? Like, like the things that some people can ask their moms about. And I didn't have mine. And again, like not that I didn't have anyone to talk to. It was just like I just didn't have her. Um so it was a very hard time. And there are still moments where I'm like, ah, like wish she could meet my kids because I I didn't have them when she was alive. So like my boys don't know their grandma, um, their their grandma in heaven is like what I call her. It's like, okay, like you have a grandma in heaven, then you have grandma here, um, and then like you have your dad's mom, who's your other grandma. Anyways, so yeah, there's definitely times where I'm like, I wish she could like just like like come see them, like come visit them. And my youngest, he looks a lot like my mom's side of the family. And so there's moments where I'm like she would, I don't know, she'd be very happy.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think, to honor that, to realize, to share, even just to share with your kids, like grandma in heaven. Um,
Hmm.
so then, you obviously you share your story because you want to help others through grief and you work through others with grief. What sort of,
Hmm.
did you go through some sort of counseling for your own self, either like when you were first in college or anything to help process all of this since you have, had a lot of experience and the desire to help others?
No, I did not. Um, and I wish that I did. I I just didn't know like where to even go for a resource. Like I just had no idea. Like I thought that, it just wasn't a thing because nobody told me about it. Um, and not that it's anyone else's responsibility to tell me about things, but I was just ignorant. Like I just didn't know. Um, and same in high school. Like I didn't know. I had no idea. I was very lucky and blessed to have a teacher at my high school who, like, she was there for me. Like, she really showed up and, like, just let me either talk or cry or, like, work on, like, homework. I don't know. She let me do whatever I needed to do and, like, really opened up that space for me. Which truly I feel like is one of the main things that helped me get through that time period where like my mom was really sick and then she was in hospice and then and then she died. And so like in those months, like this teacher, like I would go to her. um so that was like my form of like counseling or therapy. And I, like I said, I didn't know what resources there were. um And I think that, even today, I'm like, grief needs to be talked about like in every school and like everywhere because everyone is going to experience it. And it's just, it's a part of life. Like it's gonna happen. It's going to happen. Um, and so that's why I feel so like passionate about it because I'm like, I want to be the person that I needed when I was going through that. And, to help people see that there are resources out there and that there are people and ways that can help so that you aren't falling onto like these maybe unhealthy habits um, that just can like that can just make it feel even worse.
Right, of course. No, you had this teacher and, she really helped you out. When you first like went to her when your mom was first sick, was that something like natural that you were just like, I need to open up, here's what's going on in my life? Or like had the school been contacted to be like, hey, Jacey and her siblings, this is what they're going
Mm-hmm.
through, just like give them some
Mm-hmm.
grace?
Mm-hmm. Um, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm sure the school was contacted. I can't confirm that. I grew up in a really small town
Mhm.
and the school is really small. So I'm sure that they, quickly found out um if it wasn't directly like from my parents. But yeah, I I don't know why I like went to this teacher. I think it's just because like she was able to like hold space for someone. Like she held space for me, which is what I really needed at that time. Um and she was very is very she's very I don't know, just a kind human and like zero judgment. And that's what I needed. And I felt like drawn to that and like it was like comfortable. And yeah, she was able to provide that for me.
Right, which is such a good thing that you were able to have that experience with her. Now, jumping
Mhm.
ahead, you helping other people through grief coaching, how did that
Mhm.
sort of like first get started for you? You obviously like had this inspiration to do it. What kind of
Mhm.
made you get there and be able to help others?
Yeah, such a good question. So I I don't know. I like for a couple of years was considering like going back to school to become like a counselor and then I don't know, like it just didn't feel right, I guess. Like it that I was like, I want to do something like that, but I don't know if that's the thing that I want to do. Um and at the time when I was kind of like wrestling with that, I first heard of coaching and I was like, well, that is kind of weird. And I was like, I don't know if that's a real thing. And so I just kind of like pushed it off and like um didn't think much of it. And I was like, that's for like other people to do. That's not for me. And then I went on and like started my own um furniture business, which I really loved. It was so fun. Um and then about a year after that, it just like hit me. It was like, oh, this is what I need to be doing. Like I need to be a grief coach. Like I need to help people who are going through, you know, like the loss of their parent. Um and and I was like, okay, so what does that even mean? Like what do I do? How do I do it? Um and so I reached out to my stepmom actually because she became a coach a couple years before I did. And she pointed me in the right direction. I went and got certified, started coaching. Um, and so it wasn't something that was like, it wasn't like, oh, my mom died. This is what I need to do. It took a lot of time to like figure that out. And then once I started the certification process, um, I I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, "Oh, I don't need this for me. Like, I need it to like help other people and to um I don't know, like make an impact with it and that kind of stuff." And then the more that I got into like the certification calls and the coaching and that kind of stuff, I was like, "Oh, like this is actually like working really well." Like it's helping me in my healing. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until I was in it. Um, and so it's it's been such, I don't know, just a really interesting journey for sure. And I see now that like healing and grief is not a one-time thing. Like it's definitely a lifelong thing that will last forever. And you are constantly like, I don't know, healing and growing and just becoming you more and more.
Of course. Now, obviously, like with the coaching certification, you're taught the do's and don'ts. Um, so if you have a moment where like you're working with someone and they're like, well, how did you experience? What did you do in this sort of situation? Like,
Mhm,
you're
mhm.
clearly doing fine. I want to do what you did. Like, how do you navigate that sort of moment where the client just like wants the quote easy way out because clearly you figured it out?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, so anytime that I get a question similar to that. It's like, okay, like why? Why why are you wanting me to tell you the answer? Because my answer for me isn't going to be the same one for you. And so then it starts to become like, okay, it's like part of my job is to help hold up the mirror for them and like guide them, but not to like give the answer, because there's not just a one right or wrong answer. And so it's about them taking that responsibility and making the decision for themselves, which can feel really scary because you're like, oh, what if I make the wrong decision, or what if, but that's what it comes down to, is like healing and grief can't happen if you're not willing to be the one to be responsible for it.
And so then when you work with people, is there, like, obviously everybody's different, as you just said. Is there kind of the standard of like you work with them once, you always see them multiple times, you could be working for them since you started a couple years ago? Like, because everyone's process is so different, how does that kind of like turn into reality of a healing process?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on like what their goals are. Um, like like I can teach the tools and walk them through that and coach them through that. But like if there's a specific goal that they're wanting, um, then they have to be the ones to really like pick up their end of the stick. Like they have to, um, yeah, they're and it also depends on where they're currently at. There are some people that are, maybe the main goal is like, maybe we just need to like help you like be more present in life in general right now before we start working towards, these bigger goals. Um, and then there is some where it's like they feel like they're ready for maybe some of these bigger life goals. And it's like, okay, like we can, work on those things. So it just depends. It depends on where they're at.
And so do you mainly work with people who have lost their parents, or is it kind of a general, you'll work with any sort of grief processing?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I like all of my marketing and that kind of stuff is geared towards parent loss. And I work with a lot of different people who have experienced losses that I have never experienced. And it works. And I think it works because of maybe just like the I don't know, like we're just like a good match. We're a good like coach client match, and that's why it works. Um because the tools used for grief, it it doesn't totally always matter what kind of loss it is. It can be applied to different losses. It might look just slightly different. Um, and there's people who, maybe they experience a certain loss, like say child loss, for example. Um, and they, for whatever reason, feel totally comfortable with me and feel like it's a good thing, then we we can continue. Um, and of course, there's some people who have lost their parent and they're like, yeah, I don't want to work with you. And that's fine too.
And so what is it kind of like if you, like, how do you get that reality check of this isn't a good match? Like, I would recommend you seek somebody else out, or like them having to like tell you, like, yeah, I don't want to have another meeting. Is that like ever awkward, or is it like kind of like we're both feeling it?
I don't think it's awkward. I honestly haven't really had that. I like there's maybe been a couple of times where it was just kind of like either they weren't ready for it or it just wasn't like our personalities maybe didn't match. Um, but no, like it's never awkward. At least I don't feel like it's awkward. I want what's best for them. And if I'm not what's best, then it's okay. Like, good, because I don't want either of us to have to like force anything. Um, and like if there's a client that's like just trying to like push through the coaching sessions maybe, and they're like, I'm going to keep showing up because I don't know, like maybe they're afraid to like tell me no or whatever. Like they probably wouldn't be as receptive to the coaching. And so like it's just not really productive for either of us. So yeah, it's not awkward.
Good. Well, like you said, you want that reality check of it's working for both of you in the
Mhm.
right sort of ways. Now, if people have their specific goals, whatever that may look like, what happens when, like, somebody has met their goals? Like, is
Mhm.
the process of saying, like, I've met my goals, I'm feeling well, like, saying we're going to sever the relationship sounds very harsh, but, kind of, move on. Like, is that,
Yeah.
do people like find comfort in that? Or is there sometimes like, wait, I don't know what to do now?
Mm. Interesting question. Um, I mean, if anyone is ever feeling like I don't know what to do now, then I personally believe it's like a sign that okay, maybe you're ready for bigger and better things. Like maybe you need to take the next step, whatever that looks like dream just a little bit bigger. Um, and yeah, so it, I think that if anyone is feeling like that, then it's maybe not time to stop coaching. Um, and if there's people that are like, you know what, I feel like I got what I needed. I'm good where I'm at, then great. Like that's the goal. Like that's what you um I had one where she wanted to focus on being more present in life. And like that's what we worked on. And she was like, I feel like I'm there. And I'm like, great. Like, that's awesome. Good for you. And that was it. Like it it wasn't it wasn't weird.
Mm.
It wasn't it's not like a breakup.
Yeah. Yeah, I think because, unfortunately, grief isn't something that a lot of people talk about. It can
Mhm.
be hard to kind of think like, okay, well, I'm gonna go talk to this coach about this and see what happens, but I don't know what to expect. And yeah, so
Mhm.
it's just kind of, this moment of being vulnerable and having the chance
Mhm.
to truly connect and share and work towards various different goals, no matter what that looks like.
Mhm.
So I don't think I have any specific other questions before I start to wrap things up. So is there anything else that you would like to share with the listeners today?
Mm, mm. Um, so one question I get asked a lot actually is like I like I'll get messages quite often asking how they can support a friend who is, grieving a loss. And I I love that people are asking that because they want to help their people and they want to show up. Um, and two, they like, it also shows that like there's a lot of work to be done. Um, and so I guess my advice to that question, like if anyone's listening and they're like, what can I do to help my friend who's, grieving this loss? Um, a couple of things is like, okay, the first thing is anytime that you are asking them what they need, um, sometimes it's overwhelming for that person. And they're like, I don't even know what I need right now. Like, I can't even think right now. Like, am like, I just am trying to survive. And that's where all of their brain energy is going. And so they're not worried about other things. And so when you are asking them, you want to be very specific in the way that you are offering your support. So a good example would be like if your friend has kids, like you can text them and be like, hey, I am on my way to go pick up my kid from school. I can stop and pick up your kid and I can take them to the park for a half hour and then I can bring him home at 4 o'clock. How does that sound? Or is that okay? Like a yes or no question, just to make it really simple. And that way it's like, okay, they don't have to worry about what time, they don't have to worry about where, they don't have to worry about picking their kid up. And all they have to do is say, yes, that's great, or no thanks. Um, and I think that one is really important. Second one is if you are, asking, I don't know, if you feel like they are getting like emotional and like they're needing someone to talk to and you're not sure how to navigate that, um, ask them what their parents' name was. Like my mom's name was Shawn. And so it'd be um, like, like Jacey, what was your mom's name? Oh, my mom's name was Shawn. Um, and then you could say like, oh, like, did Shawn like this thing? Or, like, what was her favorite color? Something like that. And that just shows them that they can talk to you because they're really wanting to talk about their loved one. They are, but they feel like they can't because they don't want to like make anyone like feel sad or like bring them down. Um, and so it's a great way to open up that space for them that feels safe, and um and it gets them talking and they feel like they can, I don't know, like trust you. Maybe they feel a little bit less lonely. So yeah, those are just a couple of ideas, couple of like tips or advice, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I'm grateful that you brought up both of those points. I was focusing the conversation in on your experience and kind of that one-on-one relationship you're having with the person who's grieving. So bringing up like,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone will grieve at some point for some loss. So like, therefore we all know
Mm-hmm.
somebody who will be grieving someone
Right.
at, this point or that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate you sharing both of those tidbits. Now, at the end of all my episodes, I do ask my guests a random question. Doesn't have anything to do with what we've been
Love
talking
it.
about. So my
Yep.
question for you today is, what TV show would you want to be in?
Oh, to be in. Oh gosh. Probably The Office.
What would you want to be doing in the office?
I would want to be a fly on the wall and I would just want to like watch everyone in person. That sounds really creepy when I say it out loud. But yeah, like I would just like to be like an extra. So I could like just just like watch and like do my own thing at the same time and just like laugh.
All right, that brings this episode to a close. So, of course, if you would like to connect with Jacey or reach out to her, about her services, her Instagram and Facebook will be in the description, so you can direct message her on either of those sites. Also, if you check out either of those pages, there is a retreat that she is advertising, which helps, it's kind of like an additional experience, longer form, to work on healing and rebuilding life. As you go through grief and life coaching, stuff like that. And of course, if you would like to connect with the podcast, our website is in the description. That brings you to all of our past episodes, past resources, social media, all of those good things. And of course, our social media is on there as well. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn if you'd like to go follow those pages. And if you would like to support the podcast monetarily, a link to do that is in the description as well. And if you have a story that you would like to share on this podcast, my email is in the description. That is always the best way to reach me. So thank you so much, Jacey, for spending time with me today, and to my listeners for taking the time out of your day to hear a new story. Until next time, bye.
Thank you.